Midterm rentals. Yes, they're absolutely a thing, but this trend isn't what you think it is. If you're on this video, you're probably looking for the best way to make money in the short-term rental space as opposed to a simple short-term rental. And I'm going to give that to you in this video. But first, I need to teach you the truth about the midterm rental market. So that way you have the right understanding coming in, you'll make the most money with your furnished property, and you'll be super happy that you did it. And not all midterm rental markets are created equal. You're gonna need to watch this video if you're serious about midterm rentals. By the end of this video, you're gonna have a strategy that works no matter where you are. You're gonna get some of this business. Let's go. Welcome back, YouTube world. My name is Sean Rocky Jeech. I'm a short-term rental operator with over 7 years experience, over 150 properties live currently. And fun fact I've never told you before, nearly $1 million per year of my short-term rental income is actually midterm rental income, as the keyword would have it on this video. Now, I need to make a confession to you in this video and then teach you a lot about the midterm rental space so that way you can make some serious cash in this industry, because there is definitely cash in this sector. But the first thing I need to tell you when I say the trend isn't what you think it is because I'm a YouTuber. And many other content creators are either YouTubers, bloggers, educators. The midterm rental market has always existed. It's always been a thing. It goes by many monikers, and corporate housing is one. Workforce accommodations is another one. There is a fine line that separates two completely different industries, but on one side of this line is both short-term rentals and midterm rentals. They both exist in the same industry. And this is where I think a lot of people are getting this wrong. Midterm rentals is just a keyword to describe one type of customer that you can get in your property. And the reason why this keyword is getting big is because a lot of the niches in this space have been oversold. There's a lot of Airbnb content, people doing VRBO content, there's people doing all sorts of different real estate content, and influencers are looking for new places to attack you, the audience, to get in front of your face. That's a totally normal thing. What I'm about to tell you here is going to be a little controversial, but it's going to be in your best interest. And looking at it this way is going to be how you introduce yourself the right way to this concept. It's how you're going to make the most money, because you're going to have a cleaner go at this industry. It's the only way I can say it. Midterm rentals don't exist. That's the controversial statement. And so hang on with me here. Let's talk about the industry at large at first. That fine line is the difference between traditional housing and transient housing. Anytime that you buy a property or rent a property, that's traditional housing. Right? It's a property that's completely empty. But there's a spectrum in traditional housing, isn't there? You've got fully furnished apartments. You've got all bills paid. You've got second chance, like no credit check housing. You've got month to month, all bills paid, right? You've got these no contract kind of things. And as we get closer and closer to furnished, all bills paid, no credit check month to month, now we're right there. Right? We're right there on that line that jumps into transient. The difference between traditional housing and transient housing tends to be whether or not somebody has to sign a lease. Now, midterm rentals, some people are making their persons sign leases for these midterm rentals. But the truth is, if you got a midterm rental on an OTA like Airbnb, if a travel nurse, which is what you're typically thinking of in this midterm stay market, if a travel nurse booked on Airbnb, which one has booked from me for 14 months in an Airbnb property before, they didn't sign a lease. That's totally normal. So a lot of people really define the space difference as whether or not somebody's a leaseholder. And you can do midterm rentals without owning property, because like I just told you, I'm making about $1 million, just under $1 million a year in monthly rentals, and I don't own a single one of my 155 doors. They're all arbitrage. So you can access the midterm rental market as an owner or as a arbitrage operator. So let's look at the other half. Let's look at the half that is transient. If we go all the way to the very end, the Airbnb space, right, the VRBO space, the weekend parties in Austin kind of space, you'll either buy a house, have this big house, big beautiful place with a hot tub or a pool, and you'll get people staying for a couple days. The average length of stay on Airbnb is 4 to 6 days long, but Airbnb saw an increase of monthly bookings by about as much as 50% right after COVID hit. Now, we also have a staff shortage in certain key roles in this country that make the workforce accommodations part especially juicy. Contract nurses can make $6,000 or $8,000 a week. They can make a ton of money. And I have a few friends in Dallas where I live that are contract nurses. One is placed in Berkeley, California right now, and one is placed in Miami right now, and they'll be back in Dallas in a few months. But they'll pay good money if they want to. A lot of times they don't want to, though, because they want to keep all that contract money. They're not going to Berkeley to go vacation for 3 months. They're going to be working their tails off. So they tend to want a more price effective, more neutral, easy to live in, easy to work from kind of environment. They don't want the Airbnb accommodation. And this is probably one of the first things that you're starting to want to wonder is, what kind of property do I need to have to perform well in short-term rental accommodations? By the way, I'm in Las Vegas in this 7-bedroom house. A friend of mine owns it. He's an Airbnb host. Can't tell you where it is, right, because of short-term rental regulations here. But we met at the Short-Term Rental Wealth Conference in Nashville last year, which I'm not not speaking at this year. I will not be speaking at the STR conference. They didn't invite me. It's okay. I'll just do other stuff. It's absolutely cool. So this property is way too big for your typical midterm rental for a travel nurse, but there are other types of placements that can make a large 6-bedroom house money in the midterm rental market. So you do have the opportunity to do midterm rentals even with a larger home. You're just gonna have to attack a different consumer type. But back to the Airbnb thing I was talking about. Normally a property, either an apartment or a house, the average length of stay is 4 to 6 nights, but then Airbnb's seen just a stark increase in the amount of monthly rentals that they've been getting. So Airbnb has been now probably one of the biggest platforms for midterm rentals. But Airbnb has also been losing market share to VRBO for stuff, and people do know about Furnished Finder. And so now that there's more properties on Furnished Finder, it is a more reliable place for travel nurses to go find some space. The most important thing I think I can tell you at this point, if you have a property that can go on Airbnb for 4 nights or 6 nights, it is essentially the same property that can also be booked off to a travel nurse or relocating family or an insurance company or a corporate housing contract. It's the same exact property. There's nothing that you need to change to get that booking. Your property, if you want to get more monthly bookings, could use some different amenities, which I've actually covered in different videos. For example, having a more fully stocked kitchen, one that people can cook in, allows people to settle into a home and save money from not having to eat out. A washer and dryer for longer stays is important. And what you'll notice here, the theme will be that anytime I've said the word longer stay in a previous video, that longer stay could be multi-week or it could be multi-month. All the same advice I've ever given you for longer stays will apply to the monthly rental market. If you are only trying to win business on the monthly rental market, you're going to completely forsake the vast majority of money that you could make. The only time that you might do monthly rentals or midterms as your main strategy is in a market where the regulations prevent you from doing it. Now, there are really slick ways to do monthly rentals and you never do any short-term rentals, like utilizing something like PEERSPACE. And I've taught my students in Los Angeles and New York to do this, where you do monthly stays only. And then in between your monthly stays, you're gonna wanna use PEERSPACE, which is a place that people can rent by the hour for photo shoots or video shoots. That is really cool because that's not an accommodation. So when the regulations say somebody who's staying in an accommodation has to stay more than 30 days, the extra bonus days that you have left over can be booked off for photo shoots and not violate short-term rental regulation laws. That's a really good split. But there's only very specific types of properties that I advise that you do PEERSPACE in a place like New York or Los Angeles. And I teach that stuff in my course, how to set those properties, a monthly PEERSPACE combo, something I teach in Cracking Super Roast. And we've been teaching this for years. Like I said, midterm stays isn't a new thing. But if you're not in a market that requires it, maybe you have a soft requirement. Like I just did a video where I reviewed Shelby Church's property, and her main pricing strategy should be monthly flavored until it's peak season. And when peak season hits, she can use all of her, rental contract allowance, because Palm Springs has a max 36 bookings per year thing. She can use that short-term rental contract allowance in peak season, just jam the most money 3 months out of the year, but then do like a multi-week or multi-month strategy the rest of the year. Midterms are highly valid for, precise markets that have really weird regulations or a ban all the way. But even in a market where you don't have a ban or you don't have regulations, you might even have a slow season. So monthly stays or midterm stays become valid in slow season because what happens is a lot of providers are only priced for one type of customer. If you're in a market where most providers make so much money in peak season on 3-night or 4-night long stays, and those providers don't change their pricing strategy coming into slow season, then you have a competitive advantage by having both a really good prime market pricing strategy and a slow season pricing strategy. The real advice here for you is if you have the ability to do both, you should do both. And the reason why 30% of my properties are monthly at any point in time is because at scale with 150 doors, there's a lot of employees that I have to run this business, a lot of housekeepers. So we actually try to have more monthly stays because it makes it easier for us to run our business. Now, one of the coolest things that you need to know is Airbnb has redone their algorithm to make finding monthly stays easier for travelers, which means if you're a monthly stay provider, you're going to want to get your business on Airbnb. So anybody that's telling you really to push into Furnished Finder or apartments.com, by the way, you can actually do monthly stays for your short-term rental on apartments.com and other websites. And I'm going to do a separate video on 5 ways to get more monthly stays. We're gonna do that in a future video. Aside from doing those things, right? Because I really don't recommend when you're new to monthly stays to try to go all these other places to get your monthly rentals. If you can get that filled on Airbnb, the way that Airbnb populates search now is if you've had a good monthly stay in your property and somebody searches Airbnb for monthly stays again, you get pushed to the top. Airbnb is switching their algorithm from specifically an interest algorithm to a satisfaction algorithm. So if you wanna show up on the first page of search in Airbnb now, for the consumer type that you wanna service, you need to satisfy a reservation prior. right? So let's say you have a house with a pool. When somebody searches for a pool in Las Vegas and goes and stays in a pool in Las Vegas, they're gonna rate your place. You're gonna get a review. If somebody gives you a great review and they searched for a pool when they started their reservation, then your amenities get rated 5 stars. If somebody searched for a hot tub and gave you a 3-star review, but somebody searched for a gym and gave you a 5-star review, they're gonna think that your gym was 5-star and your hot tub was 3-star. So now people who have 5-star ratings for hot tub searches will pop up more because your searches, when somebody searched for a hot tub and booked with you, they thought your hot tub sucked, and that's gonna happen. So it's a satisfaction algorithm. So in this case, if somebody searches for a monthly stay, which you can actually find out if people are staying by the month by searching these listings. If somebody does search for a monthly stay, they book with you, they give you a good review, you're gonna show up in more searches for monthly stays. So your best way to get more monthly stays is to give a good price on Airbnb and initially get some monthly traffic. Now this gets to the meta, the real deep nerdy stuff of the midterm stay market. You can have 2 pricing strategies on your short-term rental property right now. When I do my pricing strategy, I have a single night rate, and then I do a 3-day and 4-day discount. I have 2 different prices for 3-day and 4-day discount. I do this to try to maximize the weekend and weekday bookings that I get in combination. So that way when people are booking certain dates, they get a really competitive rate for the weekdays. They get a really competitive rate for the weekends. But if they want to book for 1 or 2 nights, they're going to pay extra, right? That's my pricing strategy for my short-term rental market. But my 7-day and longer discounts start to play a different game. My 28-night discount isn't just some relative discount compared to my normal price. I actually go into the Airbnb market space, look at what people are paying by the month for their monthly rentals, finding out what people are making, and then I set my monthly discount based on what people will pay for monthly stays if I want them. And of course, for what months of the year do I want monthly stays? Because in peak season, I don't want monthly stays. I want weekend long and week long bookings. I want to maximize my revenue in peak season. I really want to use the midterm rental strategy for my slower season. So my listings are booked through slow season while everybody else is just scrambling for bookings. This is a really good strategy. So what I would implore you to do is to have a better understanding of pricing strategy in general. And I've got a free playlist on pricing strategy. And if you do this my way, you'll have 2 separate pricing strategies on your Airbnb listing. You're gonna have your nightly rate with 3-day, 4-day discounts. And then you're gonna have like a 14-day and 28-day discount that start to capture you longer bookings. You'll also be able to dynamically price and buoy your prices up for peak season and prices down for slow season. And then people will start to book you in slow season for monthly stays. And if you feel like it's really hard to manage all the properties that you have, let's say you buy 50 houses, you can start to give more of a juicy monthly rate all around and just try to get more monthly stays forever. That way you're not managing so many housekeepers. In future videos, we will talk about outbound selling your property because that is really the true heart of monthly stays. Is the midterm market, the corporate housing market, is where you have a furnished property, all bills paid, where people can show up like an Airbnb, drop their luggage off. But instead of waiting for a platform to find that for you, the most elegant midterm stay companies have a sales guy getting on the phone. And if you remember the video I did during COVID, I taught you all this 3-ish almost years ago. I picked the phone and I started calling relocation companies. And I taught you that 2.5 years ago, picking up the phone and doing outbound sales. But I'll do a new 2022/2023 version of this where I'm gonna teach you guys how to do some outbound selling to get some monthly stays. I'll teach you some non-Airbnb, non-VRBO, non-furnished finder platforms. I'm gonna show you the 5 ways to get more monthly bookings and the platforms and non-platform ways to go get those. But the most important thing before you go and try to get all fancy is you need to understand that on this half, transient accommodations, monthly stays, midterm stays are just a shade of gray in the scale. And if you try to do monthly stays without being forced to, if you're not in a market where you have to do monthly, if you try to prioritize monthly because you think it's better, you're coming in with the wrong bias. You're looking at it the wrong way. Your property should have a healthy blend of monthly opportunities, multi-week opportunities, 3-day, 4-day opportunities. You want to maximize your revenue all year. And if you think that you're going to have some better go at the monthly market just because you're having a hard run in the short-term space, you need to look at yourself as an operator, look at your property and its quality, and be more honest with yourself. Now, I have other videos on amenities, what to buy for your space. I did a very recent video on what to buy and what not to buy. Amenities that you need for your property. We talk about long-term amenities and short-term amenities. Go watch that video. Until I get you more midterm keyword heavy videos, those ones will service you. It's going to be nearly the same content. I'm going to tell you that right now. But the reason why you're going to see midterm stay YouTube videos and blogs on Bigger Pockets is because it is a keyword that people are trying to capture to get your attention and to influence you. That's very specifically it. But midterm stays are no different really than any other transient traffic. You just have a different consumer type that might have a different couple amenities that they want, and you're going to have less transactions. Keep it simple, guys. Keep this simple. It's not that hard and it's not that scary. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Almost forgot to ask. I'll see you on the other side.